Today's guest under the interview spotlight is a genuine sporting legend, Mr. Jonny Wilkinson. Well, Jonny, you're well known as being a perfectionist. This search for perfection started at a pretty early age.
I remember writing down my goals. I remember I used to draw pictures. Everything was about rugby. And I wrote down playing for England. I wrote down being the kicker. I wrote down being the captain. I wrote down winning the World Cup. I was young, just full of absolute passion and excitement. I used to get desperately nervous. So at the same time as while there was all this passion, there was the beginning of another journey, which was the obsessive side of my life from a very young age, where if I didn't get things right, I had a sense of doom about the outcome. If we lost a rugby game, I let my mum and dad down, or I let my team down, or if I was the one that did this, and that was life or death. If I had those two parts of me working, what I thought at the time were kind of in collaboration. What I realized later on were they were massively opposing forces. 3 years down the line, I can't stand the game. I'm sat in the change room and I've kicked 8 from 8 and we've won and we've beaten this and it's player of the match and everything. And I'm sat in the change room just wiping my brow thinking, thank God that's over. And thinking about 2 or 3 things that I wish I'd done differently.
Now, at the age of 24, you'd won the Rugby World Cup and you were the IRB Player of the Year. So you'd achieved everything you set out to. But in the book, you described yourself that you've never felt more empty.
As the human being I was then, I was just never supposed to arrive. As you can imagine, not only that those goals worked out, but the way it worked out, you've just seen it. It was like a fairy tale. It's ridiculous. It goes to the final seconds of extra time, and I'd wake up in the morning, and there's just nothing there. The Hollywood film always ends with the credits, and the guy gets the girl, or the girl gets the guy, and whatever, and the next morning they don't film them having an argument about breakfast. You know what I mean? And it's a conventional belief that we pass on and on and on, that there will be joy at the end of stress and suffering. Now, what I found out at that age, and I wasn't ready to fully accept it, was that stress and suffering just creates a habit of stressing and suffering. That becomes who you are. So I woke up that next morning, and there was nothing there. I expected outside the door to be, kind of like a golden chariot that someone was going to carry me down to breakfast in. But there wasn't. There was nothing. And when I got down to breakfast, I had new problems. So what I said to myself was, you know what, there isn't any joy at the end of this World Cup, despite the fairy tale. But I tell you what, there will be if we win the 2007 World Cup, because it's never been done back to back. So I just started on the road again. And, and that road was not passion and joy. That road was stress, suffering, sacrifice. And, that was the first stage where I got that first question mark that said, hold on, is this how this really works?
Everybody here will have to, from time to time, perform in pressurized situations. What advice or guidance would you give to people to help them manage their anxiety or deal with the nerves?
What I would say for me is that managing coping is not what life's about. I tried to find answers for everything, and every answer I found was just a new limit. What I ended up doing was completely dismantling the question itself. So how to deal with pressure? Destroy the question. Just see there's no such thing as pressure. If you don't have the thought of, what if this doesn't go well for me? There's no such thing as pressure. What am I doing now? What do I want to happen? And what am I going to do about it? Every time I kicked a ball, there was no such thing as pressure. The second before I'm about to kick it, when I'm staring at the post, there's pressure. What if this, what if that? But in the moment I'm striking the ball, there is no pressure. Why? Because there's no thought about it. Because in that moment, you are so involved and engaged in what you're doing.
So is it the focus on the process that does it?
But it's not the process.
Right.
Because the process involves a start and a finish.
Right.
It's the moment. Now, when I try to take this me now and live the past, I get regret. When I try and take it and live the future, I get anxiety. But this me now is equipped beautifully for this moment now. But when you start thinking about, it's going to be okay, you start to feel the helplessness. And that's what it is, it's helplessness, because me now cannot help what's coming, but me then will be. And that's the secret to performance, is that once you remove this identity and this thought and this need and the fear and the anxiety and the control and the pressure and the stress, you're just left with absolute clarity. And that clarity is just do it or don't. And if you do it, involve yourself fully. And if you don't, do something else and involve yourself fully.